The flickering candlelight cast long, dancing shadows on the stained walls, mirroring the wavering memories in Eleanor's mind. On the old wooden table lay a cream-colored envelope, never sealed. The recipient's name, William My Heart, was written in delicate script, now faded with the years. 20 years had passed since Eleanor penned those words. 20 years a letter lay still. And 20 years a life had taken a different turn, all because a word was never spoken. Eleanor picked up the envelope, her trembling fingers lightly tracing the rough texture of the paper. The scent of aged paper filled her nostrils, carrying with it a whole world of longing. Back then, Eleanor and William had been best friends since their school days. They had shared youthful dreams, first crushes, and their deepest secrets. That pure friendship had gradually blossomed into something deeper, a shy love that both of them implicitly understood. William was a warm-hearted young man with a smile as radiant as the early morning sun and deep blue eyes that held a whole sky of dreams. He was always there for Eleanor during her most difficult moments, a steady shoulder for her to lean on whenever she felt weak. Eleanor loved the way he listened to her, the way he teased her, and the way his eyes looked at her, always filled with an indescribable tenderness. One evening, as the sunset painted the horizon red, William told Eleanor that he would have to move to another city to pursue his dream of becoming an architect. Eleanor's heart felt like it was being pierced by 1,000 needles. She knew that distance could kill any relationship, no matter how beautiful. That night, Eleanor stayed up writing. She poured all her feelings, her longing, and her worries onto the pages. She wrote about the love she had for William, about her fear of being apart from him, and about her hope that one day they would be together again. The words were sincere and sweet as honey, flowing from the throbbing heart of a girl in love. But then, the next morning, as Eleanor held the letter in her hand, ready to go to the train station to see William off, she saw him. Not alone, but with another girl. The girl had golden blonde hair and a bright smile. They stood very close to each other, their eyes exchanging tender glances. A freezing pain spread through Eleanor's chest. She stood frozen, her heart shattering into 1,000 pieces. All the loving words she had written, all the hopes she had cherished, seemed to vanish in that instant. Without needing any further explanation, Eleanor understood that William had someone else. She quietly turned away, tucking the letter deep into her coat pocket. Her footsteps felt heavy on the familiar road. Hot tears streamed down her cheeks, mingling with the cool, early autumn breeze. From that moment on, Eleanor decided to bury her feelings. The letter was never sent, and a part of her quietly died along with it. She focused on her studies, trying to build a future without William in it. Time passed, and Eleanor became a famous writer. Her books were filled with emotion, melancholic love stories that never had a happy ending. Friends and fans were always curious about the inspiration behind her poignant works, but Eleanor would only smile silently. She met other men, had fleeting relationships, but her heart seemed to have frozen over. No one could touch the void that William had left behind. Eleanor lived an independent, successful life, but deep down she still felt a vague sense of absence. One day, Eleanor received an email from an old friend. He informed her that William had returned to the city after many years away. He lived alone and was running a small architectural firm. Eleanor's heart fluttered slightly with a strange beat. Over the years, she had tried to forget, but William's image still lingered in her dreams. She wondered if he still remembered her. Was his life happy? After many sleepless nights, Eleanor decided to meet William. She wanted an explanation for that fateful day at the train station. She wanted to know if everything she had once believed in had been just an illusion. They arranged to meet at a small cafe, the same one they used to frequent when they were young. When William walked in, Eleanor almost didn't recognize him. His hair had streaks of gray, and lines of time and experience etched his face. But those deep blue eyes were still the same, still shining with a familiar tenderness. The conversation started awkwardly. They asked about each other's lives, about the successes and failures they had experienced. Then Eleanor took a deep breath, looked straight into William's eyes, and asked about the girl from all those years ago. William sighed softly, his eyes clouding with sadness. He explained that the girl was his cousin, who had come to see him off. They were just standing close to say goodbye, and the quick hug was just a friendly gesture between family members. Eleanor was stunned. A truth she had constructed in her mind for 20 years turned out to be completely wrong. If only she hadn't rushed away that day. If only she had given William a chance to explain. William continued his story. He said that he had always remembered Eleanor, their beautiful memories. He had tried to contact her many times, but there was no way to find her. He had always regretted not making things clear that day, for losing someone as important as her. Eleanor's tears fell silently. All the resentment and regret that had been pent up for 20 years finally broke free. She had let a small misunderstanding steal their happiness. In that moment, Eleanor remembered the letter she had kept. She took it out of her old handbag, the envelope worn, but the words inside still intact. She placed the letter on the table, in front of William. William picked up the letter, his hands trembling as he opened it. He read each line, each passionate word of love that Eleanor had written for him. His eyes welled up with tears. Eleanor, his voice was choked with emotion. I had no idea. If only I had sent it, Eleanor whispered, her voice filled with regret. Maybe our lives would have been different. They both fell silent, lost in their own thoughts. 20 years, such a long time for an unsent letter to change the fate of two people. That meeting opened a new door for Eleanor and William. They started talking more, sharing the losses and joys of their lives. They realized that, even though time had passed, the sincere affection between them was still there, burning softly in their hearts. Eleanor no longer wrote sad love stories. Her pages were now filled with hope and healing. She had learned that sometimes silence and unnecessary misunderstandings can cause deep wounds. William also found joy in his life again. He realized that success in his career wasn't everything. The most important thing was having someone to share it with, someone to love. They didn't try to turn back time, but they cherished what they had in the present. They built a new relationship together, based on sincerity and understanding. That unsent letter had finally fulfilled its mission, albeit belatedly. It became a testament to a love that had been missed, but also the beginning of a second chance. Eleanor and William understood that sometimes the things left unsaid hold an invisible power that can change an entire life. And sometimes a life only truly changes when those unsaid things are finally revealed. The candlelight still flickered on the table, illuminating the faded cream envelope. Eleanor smiled softly with relief. Her life had taken a different turn on the day she didn't send that letter. But now, perhaps, it was finally on the path it was always meant to be on. Beside her, William held her hand tightly, his eyes filled with love and appreciation. They knew that, despite the regrets of the past, the future was still ahead, and they would write a new story together. A story with a happy ending, starting with a letter that was never sent.